वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedānta heartily welcomes you to the 40th session of DISHA. DISHA means direction, and for us, it stands for an inward journey that we're taking to discover our inner strength and happiness through the direction provided by the Bhagavad Gita. Today, we're going to continue our study of the 9th chapter, studying verses from 4 to 11. The very versatile Sri Shiv Kumar ji will take us through these precious verses. He will also explain the all-important topic of Atma as given in the Tatvabodha. Our beloved teacher, Dr. Upaniṣads, will throw light and more wisdom on these topics. So let us be all ears. After this, we will have a teaching quiz conducted by the soft-spoken and scholarly Srimati Indumati Madam. Now we will enter today's shloka, which I have the privilege of presenting. Sanskrit is full of wisdom. All our ancient texts are given in Sanskrit. So today we will study a very simple Subhashita, which tells us how to lead our everyday life. Paropakaraya phalanti vrikshaha, paropakaraya vahanti nadyaha, paropakaraya duhanti gavaha, paropakararthamidam shariram. Coming to the first line, paropakaraya phalanti vrikshaha. This line speaks about the abundance of nature. A single tree gives hundreds of fruits, and contained within each fruit are seeds which in turn will give rise to trees, giving us an infinite number of fruits. So our blessings are infinite. And these fruits are equally available to all, starting from the smallest of insects to the birds, to animals, and to humans without any bias. As the fruits represent the best part of the trees, so must our good qualities, which represent the best of us, benefit everyone. Paropakaraya vahanti nadyaha. Rivers which start as a small stream and then they flow down mountains over boulders, rocks and stones, bringing the life-giving water to all. So must we flow over our own obstacles while helping everyone along our way. In the third line, Paropakaraya duhanti gavaha. Cows, which are sacred and revered in our Hindu tradition, give milk much more for others than their own calves. While this speaks of the sacrificial nature of cows, it also reminds us that humans partake of more than their share of resources. Finally, in the last line, Paropakararthamidam shariram. It is a blessing. It is a huge blessing to be born as a human. And Paropakara is nothing other than Panchamahayagna, which is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is our essential first step of our spiritual journey. So starting now, let us all take to Paropakara every day of our lives. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Panada. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. In today's Disha, we are studying a very interesting portion of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verses 4 to 11, which touch on the essence of all the Upaniṣads, the Nirguṇa Īśvara svarūpam, or the higher nature of God. To be able to understand some of these paradoxical verses, one has to know the essence of all Vedānta is Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, where we talk of two different orders of reality. Jagan Mithya is understood only from understanding what is Vyavahara, and Brahman as Paramarthika. Jagan Mithya is possible only from the angle of Paramarthika. What is Asangatvam? About how Īśvara is the cause of the universe. All these terms will be discussed. Īśvara is neither a karta or a bhokta, and Īśvara is essentially a sakshi. What is the cause of samsara, and is there a remedy? All these we will be discussing in the Gita verses. But before that, we will touch on Atma from the Tatvabodha, about how Atma enlivens his human body. What are the important features of Atma or consciousness as popularized by Swami Paramarthananda? And one of the most important sadhanas for a student of Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya is to have Atma Anatma Viveka. To take us through this will be Shivkumar Yadalam. Shivkumar, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I would like to commence today's session by offering my prayerful pranams to Bhagavad Pada Adi Shankaracharya, Parama Pujya Paramarthananda, and Dr. Timmappa Hegde. Today, we shall be covering three topics. First is the important features of Atma, as explained in Tatvabodha. Second, the higher nature of God from verses 4 to 10 of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Third is the cause of samsara, not knowing the higher nature of God from verse 11. I will start with Tatvabodha on the specific topic of Atma. The Sthula Shariram is Pancha Bhautikam, or material in nature. The Sukshma Shariram, or subtle body, is made up of subtle elements. Karana Shariram, or causal body, being the seed form of gross and subtle bodies, is the subtlest form of matter. Therefore, Shariratrayam being material in nature, they are Jadam, or inert in nature. Being inert and Jadam, Shariratrayam neither has Chaitanya Gunakam nor Chaitanya Janakam. That is, neither has consciousness nor can it produce consciousness, and by their intrinsic nature, it is insentient. The mind, also being part of Sukshma Shariram, is also inert matter and therefore insentient. These three bodies, that is Shariratrayam, form the first three human personality. Logically, we know Shariratrayam is insentient, but we very much experience the body as a conscious body because I am conscious of the surroundings and I experience the mind as sentient. Now, how do we reconcile this? Swamiji helps us understand this with an example. Suppose we know that a person who is extremely poor but comes to a function with lot of ornaments, then it is to be inferred that even if he does not have his own and now wearing them, the ornaments must be borrowed ones. In the same way, Shastra points out Shariratrayam does not have Svabhavika Chaitanyam or natural consciousness, and therefore it has Agantuka Chaitanyam or borrowed consciousness. Logically, this borrowing is possible only when there is a lender, and this lender of consciousness is that fourth factor in human personality. Now, what is that fourth factor? Who is the lender of that consciousness? Atma. Atma is the lender. Atma is the fourth factor in human personality, which is the lender of consciousness to the first three factors, Sthula, Sukshma, and Karana Shariram. Therefore, we can say Atma makes Shariratrayam aglow with consciousness. Atma makes Shariratrayam alive with consciousness. Atma makes Shariratrayam sentient with consciousness. In Upanishad, Atma is called Devaha, the blessing principle. The nearest comparison is electricity, which makes the bulb aglow with light or brilliance. The bulb or filament cannot glow by itself, but the other principle called electricity makes the filament glow first, and the filament makes the bulb brilliant. The glowing filament and bulb alone are visible, but the electricity which enables this is invisible. But only with the blessing of this invisible electricity can the bulb and filament glow. This gives rise to the question, what is the nature of this Atma? Atma Chaitanya Swarupa is the first feature. Atma is the nature of consciousness itself. It is a non-material principle. Hence, the first feature of Atma is that it is non-material, spiritual principle of the nature of consciousness. Chaitanya Swarupaha or Chitrupaha. Second feature, Atma Swatantraha, independent. Atma or consciousness is an independent entity and does not depend on matter either for production or existence. Third feature, Atma Nirguṇaha, non-material. Shabda, Rupa, Rasa, Sparsha, Gandha belong to the 5 elements of Akashaha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, and Prithvi. Since Atma is non-material in nature, it does not have any of these attributes which belong to the matter. Atma is therefore Nirguṇaha, attributeless and property-free. Atma Nityaha, ever existent, the next principle. Since Atma does not depend on matter or Shariratrayam for its existence or production, even when matter perishes or the material Shariratrayam collapses, Atma, the consciousness principle, continues to survive just as the electricity continues to survive even if the filament is destroyed. Therefore, Atma is Nityaha. Consciousness being non-material, it does not have the property of time also. It is Nityaha, eternal, and Kala Atitaha, beyond time. Coming to the next feature, Atma Sarvagataha, or boundless. Time and space are closely interconnected. Atma, not being bound by time, it is invariably not constrained or circumscribed by space also. Therefore, Atma is Sarvagataha. It is not located in Shariratrayam, but it is behind Shariratrayam also. Just as electricity is not only behind the one bulb, but behind all the bulbs, and it is there in between as well, but we don't see because there is no bulb. Similarly, Atma is Sarvagataha or Sarvavyapi, and it is behind all Shariratrayams also. The last feature is Atma Ekaha, that is one. If Atma is one consciousness principle behind all the bodies, Atma has to be only one, even though bodies are many. Hence, Atma is Ekaha, non-dual. Therefore, Atma is the fourth factor in the personality of every individual. Concluding, the stages of development are, first is that Shariratrayam is Bhautikam, made of elements. Next, therefore, Shariratrayam is Jadam, insentient. Next is, but they appear as though sentient, and hence Shariratrayam has borrowed consciousness. Proceeding to the second topic, the higher nature of God from Bhagavad Gita. Friends, the verses 4 to 10, which constitute the main theme of the 9th chapter, it is the single important portion or the central theme of entire Gita, containing the essence of all Upanishads. Here, Krishna talks about the nature of God, especially the higher nature of God. In the Upanishadic textbooks, the higher nature of God is called Brahman. The lower nature is called Maya. Having introduced both these in the earlier chapters, now from 4th verse to the 10th verse, he is initially dealing with the higher nature by describing Brahma svarūpam or Paraprakriti. In the 4th verse, the Lord says, all this world is pervaded by my higher nature, which, being attributeless, devoid of any properties like Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha, remains invisible or imperceptible to the sense organs. Vyaktam means Indriya Gocharam, that which is available to the sense organs. Avyaktam, as in the verse, means Anindriya Gocharam, that higher nature of God, being attributeless, is imperceptible to our sense organs and is not an object of experience. Hence, we have the first definition of the higher nature of God or Paraprakriti. It is Avyakta Murtihi Īśvara, or whose form is unmanifest or attributeless. The next glory or second feature of that God is Idam Sarvam Tatham. Tatham is another word for Vyaptam. Hence, Idam Sarvam Tatham means all pervading. It is important to note that Paraprakriti, being without any attributes, being formless and all pervading, is without a specific location also. Hence, the second feature of God, Sarvagatam, all pervading. Continuing, Krishna says, all beings dwell in me and I do not dwell in them. I repeat, in this verse, Krishna says, all beings dwell in me and I do not dwell in them. In me, my unmanifested form, dwell all living beings from Brahma down to the animal and plant kingdoms. No being devoid of the self or the consciousness can ever become an object of experience. Being blessed with consciousness, the innermost essence of all the beings dwelling within this unmanifest, all-pervading Lord, have individual existence. But due to delusion, it seems as though the Lord dwells in the beings. Delusion it is, because all-pervading Lord, unconnected with any object, cannot be contained in a receptacle like a body. Proceeding to the third feature of God, Krishna says, Matsthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshvavastitaha. The whole world, all the things and beings, they are all matsthani. They are resting in me. I am Vishwadharaha. Therefore, the third feature of higher nature of God is Jagat Adaraha or Jagat Adhishthanam. Important to note here, consciousness can exist independent of matter. Matter cannot exist independent of consciousness. That means consciousness is Satyam and matter is Mithya. Therefore, Lord is Mithya Jagat Adhisthana or Jagat Adara Svarupaha. Proceeding to the fifth verse, he says, in the fifth verse, Krishna says, Nacha Matsthani Bhutani Pashyame Yogamishwaram Bhutabhrunna Cha Bhutastho Mamatma Bhutabhavanaha. Bhutani na Matsthani, that all beings or world do not rest in me. This seems to contradict what he said in the second line of the previous shloka. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. But as both are coming from the Lord, we cannot even entertain an element of doubt. Fortunately, Bhagavatpada Adi Shankaracharya beautifully resolves this seeming contradiction. He says, first the Lord said that there is a thing X existent. And in the next moment, he says, X is not existent there. As both are coming from the Lord, Shankaracharya says, only one way both statements can be validated. He says, X is seemingly existent because from one angle, it is existent. But on closer inquiry, you find that it has got only a seeming existence. And hence you say it is not existent. Swami Paramarthanandaji illustrates this with the dream example for our easier understanding. If somebody asks if a dream is existent or non-existent, the answer will be, it will be existent first, because we have experienced the dream intimately. But when we wake up from a higher standpoint, as the waker, we know that what we dreamt did not really exist. There was no external object at all. It was all our own thought in the mind. But from the dreamer's angle, from a lower order of reality, it is there. But from a waker's angle, a higher order of reality, it is not there. This in Vedanta is called mithya. Mithya means experientially available, capable of invoking response, but factually on waking, it is non-existent. We cannot say it is there, nor can we say it is not there, but it is seemingly existent. In Vedanta, it is defined as sad asadbhyam anirvachaniyam. This seemingly existing world is called mithya jagat. The higher nature of God, Brahman, supports this mithya jagat, and hence he is called mithya jagat adhishthanam. This is the third feature. Lord is the substratum of mithya universe. Now, revealing the fourth feature, Krishna says, Mama Atma bhuta bhavanaha bhuta bhrun. I am the Shrishti, Sthiti, Laya, Karanam of this entire universe. Just as the waker is the Shrishti, Sthiti, Laya, Karanam of the dream world. Therefore, the fourth feature, Jagat Shrishti, Sthiti, Laya, Karanam. In the same way, this whole universe, including time and space, is like a dream from the standpoint of Brahman, or the higher nature of God. And from that Lord, the universe-like dream comes into existence, sustains as a dream, and resolves like a dream. And the worldly order of reality, or Vyavaharika Satyam, or empirical reality, is non-existent. This verse emphasizes the Vedantic essence, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Swamiji brings out a beautiful point again. He says, Satyam can exist without Mithya, but Mithya cannot exist without Satyam. Dream cannot exist without a waker, but waker can exist without a dream. So too, Lord can exist without the world, but world cannot exist without the Lord. This in Upanishadic literature is called Satya Mithya Sambandha, or Adhyasthana Adhyasa Sambandha. In the sixth verse, Lord illustrates by an example what has been taught in the two preceding verses 4 and 5. He says, Yatakshastho nityam vayu sarvatrago mahan tatha sarvani bhutani matsthanitya upadaraya. Just as the great all-pervading mighty wind is ever present or rests in akasha or space, in the same manner all beings rest in me so long as the world lasts, but without any contact at all. With this, he is introducing the fifth feature of the Lord or Brahman, Asangatvam. Asangatvam is unsullied nature or unsustainable nature. In the previous verse, Krishna said, I support the whole universe. The universe is resting in me. Imagine if some dirty object is kept on our lap, it would naturally soil our clothes. Similarly, if the whole universe with its good, bad, pure, impure is resting in the Lord, it should sully or transfer the dirt or impurities onto Bhagavan, who is the Jagat Adhara. But Krishna says that even though I accommodate everything, I am not tainted by anything. This nature of the Lord is called Asangatva. Coming to the example, Akasha, which is the closest example to Brahman, the higher nature of Lord, both are formless and all-pervading. Just as space cannot be burned by fire, wet by water, cannot be cut, cannot be burned, even if fire is within the space. Any emanating sugandha or durgandha, that is fragrant or foul smell, remains in the vast, fast-moving air without affecting or attaching itself to the space. Hence, Akasha is Asanga. Similarly, the Lord accommodates everything, including all good, bad, pure, impure in the universe. But he is never tainted by any of them. He is not affected by the pairs of opposites. Bhagavan in the 5th verse mentioned that he is the Jagat Karanatvam or Shrishti Sthiti Laya Karanam of this entire universe. This feature he elaborates in the 7th and 8th verses. Sarva Bhutani Kaunteya Prakrithim Yanti Mamikam Kalpakshaye Punasthani Kalpadau Visrajam Yaham. The 8th verse, Prakrithim Swamasthabhya Visrajami Punah Punaha Bhutagram Mamimam Krishnam Avasam Prakriter Vasat. Srishti, how does the Lord create the universe? Krishna says the universe was, is, and will always be existent. Only difference is it may be in a manifest manner or unfolded manner or in a unmanifest potential or seed form. Potential or seed form is like a tree existing within a seed or a baby existing in the womb of its mother. Krishna says, all the details of this universe is already coded in me in Avyakta Rupam. And that unmanifest universe is called Prakriti or Maya. All beings and universe resolve and go back to the Lord in Prakriti or Maya form. As the manifest dream is dependent on the waker, Brahman is the substratum for both manifest and unmanifest Prakriti or cosmos. For one cycle of manifest universe to unmanifest Prakriti, it takes one kalpa, which is one Brahmaji's day, or it is 2000 Chaturyugas. At the end of a kalpa, all beings resolve into the Lord's Prakriti, and again at the beginning of the next kalpa, he sends or creates this entire multitude of things and helpless beings. The unmanifest universe evolves into manifestation, and it again resolves into unmanifest form in an eternal cycle, in an eternal cyclical manner, which is without a beginning or an end. Hence, the Lord says, resorting to my Prakriti, I create again and again this multitude of helpless beings, and they are under the control of Prakriti. In the 9th verse, Lord makes it clear that he is not bound by his acts. As the Jagat Shrishti Sthiti Laya Karta, creator of multitude of beings in the universe with unequal conditions, pain, suffering, death, etc., a serious doubt arises. As a Karta, he should accrue the result of his action. Hence, he has to, as a Bhokta, enjoy the phalam too. Hence, the Supreme Lord should be subject to dharma and adharma arising from that act. But this is not so. How is that? Though the Lord seems to do everything, the karmas do not accrue to him. In the 9th verse, Lord explaining this 6th or final feature, he says, Na cha mam thani karmani nibadnanti dhananjaya udasinam asaktam teshu karmashu. The sixth feature, that Īśvara is akarta or abhokta. He says, I am neither the creator nor the destroyer, and therefore you cannot attribute any action or result to me. He does not give up the karma, but he is not bound by the karma, as he is not identified with, as if he is uninvolved, being detached, as though indifferent. The kartrutva abhimana is not there. Friends, here the Lord is giving us an important clue to all Vedantins by saying, do your karma sincerely, but renounce the abhimana, ahankara, mamakara, abhimana. Sacrifice the doership thoughts. Remember īśvararpana buddhi and īśvara prasada bhava. Develop absence of egotistic feeling and absence of attachment for results. This is the cause of freedom. Freedom from dharma and adharma. Otherwise, a deluded man is bound by his own acts like a silkworm in the cocoon. In the 10th verse, Krishna says, Maya adhyakshena prakritihi suyate saracharam sacharacharam hetunena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. He says, in my presence, that is, in the presence of my higher self, that formless, untainted, all-pervading consciousness as the presiding principle, apara prakriti, or Maya, the basic matter composed of the three gunas, evolve, produces, projects into this entire creation or the whole universe of things and beings, of moving and unmoving. Maya adhyakshena. Here Swamiji gives examples to help us understand this better. The first one is to illustrate Sakshi Bhava. Imagine a light that pervades in a room or a hall, illuminating the hall. While this light helps various actions in the hall or the room, which are not possible in its absence, it remains unconcerned of the nature of actions, whether good or bad. And these actions do not taint the light in any way. This is Sakshi Bhava. The second example is of electricity. Electricity can only bless every gadget to work to its designed nature, to do a particular function, but it cannot determine it to do any other function other than what it is meant to do. Like a bulb can only illuminate, a mic can amplify the sound, a fan can rotate in the presence of electricity. Hence, gadgets can function only according to their nature in the presence of electricity, which is only a samanya karanam. Similarly, God does not determine the nature of thoughts. God only enlivens the instrument, and depending upon the nature of the instruments, the thoughts are generated accordingly. Therefore, in the presence of consciousness, a sattvic brain or a rajasic mind or a tamasic mind will do their functions and generate thoughts according to their nature. Continuing, Lord says, because of my sheer presence alone, the whole drama, the entire universe revolves and everything is in motion. Swami Vidyaranya in Panchadashi, giving the example of Nataka Deepa Prakarana, says the whole drama, the play is going on in the presence of the light, and if the light were to go off, the drama stops. Even though the light does not play any physical role in the drama, its presence is required for the drama to continue. So too, God does not play any role in the transactions, but his presence is required for transactions to take place. Hence, in his presence alone, the entire universe revolves or is in motion. Jagat viparivartate. Next slide, sir. Now, coming to our third and last topic, not knowing the higher nature of God is cause of samsara. From verses 4 to 10, Krishna, having described the higher nature of God, Now in the 11th verse, he is explaining samsara karanam, the cause of samsara or the life of the impious. All of us are aware of a common question. Why do we have problems? Lord says that the problems are because of expecting permanence from the impermanent, expecting purnatvam or ananda from the finite. If a person wants peace, happiness, and security, he must look for something that is permanent or that which is purnam, and that is the higher nature of God only. In the first line, Krishna says, Avajananti mam mudha manusim tanumashritam. The ignorant people resort to take my human form as the real form, and thinking that they are glorifying me in my human form, they are only degrading me by not striving to know Mama Param Bhavam Bhuta Maheshwaram, the highest Lord, who is the substratum or the controller of all the beings. My Nirguṇa Īśvara, the formless svarūpam, Paraprakriti, the higher Chaitanya Svarupam, which is the only source of permanent peace, happiness, and security. Hence, we must know the higher nature to attain Purnatva. Recognizing the problem of the confused people who, being ignorant, holding on to his lower nature, the Saguna Svarupam, not striving for his higher nature, Nirguṇa Īśvara, he calls such people Mudaha. Anything other than Nirgunam, Brahma, is Sagunamaya. Anything that is within Sagunamaya is matter. Matter, like our body, is subject to birth, decay, and death. Here, let's recall Swamiji's example of the cardboard chair. He says the whole world is a cardboard chair, which we can use for every purpose except for sitting. Similarly, you can never lean on the impermanent, changing world, and leaning on it results in samsara, it being the samsara karanam, the world being the samsara karanam. Swamiji reminds us that having ignorance is not a sin, but perpetuating ignorance is a problem, and that is a sin. Hence, ignorance of higher nature of God is not a sin, but not attempting to remove that ignorance is a sin. This ignorance can be removed by gaining knowledge of Nirguṇa Īśvarupam by Vedānta Shravana Manana and Nididhyasana. Vedānta devotes to help us in gaining this knowledge. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you very much, Shiv Kumar. That was excellent. A very comprehensive and a very thorough covering of the most important verses of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which talk about the higher nature of Bhagavan, and also about the fundamentals about what is Atma. A few explanations to give a little clarity of what is Atma in relation to what we normally experience in the mobile telephone. Our body can be compared to the instrument, the hardware. The SIM card can be compared to our Sukshma Sharira. That is why the definition of death is the moment the Sukshma Sharira separates from the gross body, the person dies. The Sukshma Sharira, or the subtle body, which is essentially the mind, the prana, manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, the subtle body, is actually the modem which is able to download the signals that are coming from the internet. Now, the internet or the cellular network is there everywhere, and the SIM card is able to get it down and relate to a particular identity. That is how exactly Atma, being all pervasive, is able to be downloaded because of the subtle body, and because of the connection between the subtle body and the gross body. The Atma enlivens the subtle body enlivens the gross body. That means because of the cellular space my SIM card gets activated, and the activated SIM card activates the phone. That is one method of understanding this example. Swami Paramarthananda ji is very famous for this profound understanding of consciousness. Now we are students of Advaita Vedanta. Let us take a little jump and see the same thing from an Advaita Vedanta angle. Now there we have to now just make a little shift from consciousness to Atma. I need to say again and again, Atma is not a part, product, or a property of my body. It is an independent entity. And because of that Atma, which is working through my mind and the sense organs, my mind is enlivened, my body is enlivened. Otherwise, it is an inert object. This Atma is not limited to the boundaries of my body, and I know it is all pervasive. As long as the mind and body are together, then this body is alive. But once it is separated, Atma continues to exist, but it will not, it cannot be manifest because of a want of a suitable interaction between the body and mind. This example should be very clear from Atma example or Atma understanding. Same thing, this Atma does not have any attributes. And when there are no attributes, now again, let us come to ourselves. I as Atma, if I identify from body, mind, I am a samsari. I know I am a mixture of body, mind, and Atma. Our whole training is Atma, Anatma, Viveka. The Anatma part, the body, mind, is only an instrument that helps me to interact in the world. The Atma component, can I identify and disidentify from the aging, growing, going body. Therefore, my true nature is Nitya. When I do not have any attributes in time, I am Nityaha. I have no beginning, I have no end. When I have no attributes in space, my body is here, I am everywhere. Then who am I? I am Ananta. I am limitless. This understanding itself gives me Purnatvam or Ananda. I as Atma, I am Ekaha. There can be no second. And therefore, it is not something that can be divided. It is Akhanda, it is Nishkalam. It cannot be divided into parts, just like space. Can you divide space? This Atma, my real me, is the only reality. Everything else is mithya, or as explained by Shiv Kumar, has a dependent reality. Just as given in all these examples, Atma is asangaha. Like the light in my room is of a higher order. It is not affected by anything. The light on my hand is not affected by anything positive or negative on the hand. And this aspect about Atma is asanga. This asangatvam is the key factor which brings about liberation. I am the illuminator of my body and mind. I see all the agony or the joy in my mind, but I'm able to be asanga, then I have liberation. The more I understand my true nature, I am therefore akarta and abhokta. The body has its own roles to play, but I become a facilitator. I become a karma yogi to allow the body to do whatever it has to do. And if I am very clear that I am not doing it, I am abhokta. Finally, understand I am of Chaitanya Swarupa. I am the Drik. My body mind is the Drishyam, and I can never be objectified or aprameya. These are the higher natures of Atma, or my true higher nature. This should be our sadhana all the time. This is what is called Drik Drishya Viveka, or Atma Anatma Viveka. Am I a body with consciousness, or am I consciousness with an incidental body? The underlying formula to work on is, we are not human beings with an occasional spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings who have forgotten our true nature, and we think we are ordinary human beings, and that is why we have samsara. With this background, let us make a quantum jump, looking into all these words again, not in the form of Sri Krishna is this, Sri Krishna is this. Sri Krishna is certainly that. But can I see it as myself? Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. I pervade this entire universe in an unmanifest form. All beings exist in me. I am the only reality, but I'm not dependent on them. Just like the dream exists in me, I'm the creator of my dream. I sustain my dream. It resolves into me, but I'm not dependent on anything of the dream. This is one verse. We go to the next verse. Now, this is how we will be able to understand this again. These so-called controversial verses, where again in this beautiful verse says, Nachamastani bhutani pashyami yogam īśvaram. Can we say that, look at my glory? What a glory as Atma. I as Atma am so glorious. In what way I am glorious? I am the one who's sustaining the whole universe, and I am independent of the whole universe. Mayeva sakalam jatam, my sarvam pratishtitam, my sarvam layam yati tad brahmadvayam asmayam aham. Now this is our glory, and this is what we need to be able to claim. The more you see as Atma, one thing is very clear. Anything that happens to this body, anything that happens to my mind, anything that happens to the world around me, my family, my possessions, my professions, my friends, my possessions, should not really affect me. Just as when you wake up from your dream, you see that anything that happens in the dream world cannot affect me. And this is the Yata Akasha Stitam Nityam Vayu. Beautiful example to give how my true nature is immanent. Although I am in and through, I am asangatva. Now, how the whole beings come into me and how the whole beings resolve. Every day, this is a cycle that goes on and on. See our own glory. The moment we wake up, the world is born. The moment we go to sleep, the world has resolved. And see yourself as Atma. You know, as from a Vyavaharika angle, we have Nidra Shakti to create a beautiful dream world, to sustain the world and to resolve into it. But I as Atma, I have the Maya Shakti. And it is through Maya Shakti, this whole world is created when I wake up. This whole world is sustained by me as long as I am awake. And when I go to sleep, the whole world, as far as I am concerned, is resolved. Then what do? I understand I am Atma, but I play the lower body-mind role. As per the role, how do I play the role? As a Sakshi. Maya Dyakshena Prakriti. This whole world, can I be a facilitator? Can I function through Akarta Abhokta? All the time remembering I'm a Sakshi, and as the body-mind has a certain role to play, I allow that to happen and it shall not affect me. Swamiji has said, as long as I remember this, I am free from samsara. The moment I forget, remember what Dakshinamurti keeps his right foot on all the time, on forgetfulness, on apasmara. The moment I forget my true nature, I am sucked into all the problems of samsara. The moment I remember, then it is Nandati, Nandati, Nandati Eva. With this background, let us look into what we have studied again in the form of a quiz, which will be a teaching quiz conducted by Indumati and Dr. Ashwini. Indumati, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In today's teaching quiz, we have a few questions on Tatvabodha, Atma, and Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, from verses 4 to 11. The first question goes like this. According to Shastra, our three shariras, Stula, Sukshma, and Karana, are inert, that is, Jada. They do not dash consciousness and cannot dash consciousness.
Yes, ma'am. They do not have consciousness, that is Chaitanya Gunakam, and cannot produce consciousness, Chaitanya Janakam, because they are Bhautikavat, composed of matter.
Correct. The next question. Although Jadam, why do we experience our body as though sentient? The options are: the body is made up of living cells. We can experience the world around us because of prarabdha karma. The body has swabhavika chaitanyam. Finally, because of borrowed agantuka chaitanya.
Ma'am, it is because of borrowed or agantuka chaitanyam.
Right. The next question. What is it that lends this chaitanya?
Ma'am, it is the Atma. Just as the electricity makes the bulb glow, the Atma makes the Shariratrayam sentient.
Right. The next question. What are the salient features of the Atma? The options here are Atma is...
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Like we've already seen in the presentation,
Yes.
if Atma is not a part of the body,
Yes.
Atma is not a property of the body,
Yes.
Atma is not a product of the body,
Yes.
Atma is an independent entity which pervades and enlivens the body.
Yes.
Atma is not evident when the body drops or dies, not because it is absent, but because of lack of suitable medium to manifest.
Perfect. The next question. Explain the following features of Atma in a few words. Nirguna.
Nirguna is no attributes.
Right. Nitya.
Nitya is eternal. Kalatitaha.
Ekaha.
Ekaha is non-dual. Advaita.
Right. Sarvagatam.
Sarvagatam is all-pervading.
Finally, Swatantra.
Swatantra is independently existing.
Perfect. Next question. Atma Anatma Viveka means ability to differentiate between body from mind, differentiate living from non-living, differentiate fact from fiction, disidentify from Anatma and identify with Atma.
Ma'am, and the option D, that is disidentify from Anatma and identify with Atma.
Exactly, correct. Now we'll come to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina mastani sarvabhutani nachaham tesh vyavastitaha. This verse describes dash nature of Krishna, Nirguna or Saguna.
Ma'am, is it Nirguna nature of Krishna?
Correct. Avyakta murti means Indriya dash Gocharam or Agocharam.
Agocharam, ma'am.
Perfect. Next question. Sarvam tatam means dash Saguna Nirguna.
Is it Nirguna, ma'am?
Correct. Next. Mastani sarvabhutani nachaham tesh vyavastitaha means all things and beings rest in me, yet I am not in them. I am the supportless supporter of the world. I am Jagat Adhishtanam. I am immanent yet transcendental. All of the above.
Ma'am, it simply means all of the above.
Right. Next question. Mastani sarva bhutani, verse 4. Nachamastani bhutani, verse 5. Is Krishna contradicting himself here?
No, ma'am. In Vedanta, this is called Sad Asadbhyam Anirvachaniyam. In verse 4, he says, I am Vishwadharaha, the Adhishtanam of the universe. In verse 5, the world or beings do not rest in me. The reason being, the world, Mithya, which is Vyavaharika Satyam, and Brahman, which is Paramarthika Satyam, belong to different orders of reality and cannot coexist. Empirical reality is non-existent from the standpoint of absolute reality, but does exist with respect to the ordinary worldly perception.
Correct. Next one. Yathakasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatra gomahan tata sarvani bhutani mastani tyupadharaya. Which feature of Brahman is introduced here?
Ma'am, it is asangatvam.
Yes, correct. What are the four common features between space and Īśvara?
Ma'am, they are formless, all-pervading,
Yes.
accommodating,
Yes.
asangatvam, which is untainted.
Correct. Next one. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani kalpado visrujamyaham. Does the Lord create the world?
Ma'am, the world is always existent either in the manifest, that is Maya, or unmanifest form, that is Prakriti. The Lord is the fundamental cause or source of Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya Karana.
Correct. Finally, Nachamam tani karmani nibhadnanti dhananjaya udasinavadasinam asaktam teshu karmasu. Which feature of Brahman is described here?
It is, the answer is, I think here the Akarta and Abhokta feature of Brahman is described.
Yes.
Tani karmani, that is Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Mamna Nibhaddanti. These actions are non-binding.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Indumati ma'am and Dr. Ashwini for an engaging and enlightening quiz. Thank you very much, Sri Shiv Kumarji, for a wonderful educational session. Our pranams to Dr. Hegde sir for his valuable insights on the topic. And thank you very much, dear friends, for your participation and feedback. Friends, in response to our call on 2nd December 2022, many of you have sent your Guru Dakshina, and we thank you for that. For those of you who are yet to do so, the mode of payment to the account is displayed on the screen. It will also be sent to you in the Telegram group. We must add that the decision of offering and the amount is purely voluntary and there is no compulsion at all. As you are aware, our classes are free and your entire contribution will be offered at the lotus feet of our gurus. Details of such offerings will be shared with you all. We will log in for our verse-by-verse Bhagavad Gita session 128 on the 30th of December, Friday, to continue our study of chapter 17. Please log in at 6:45 p.m. sharp. Thank you. We will conclude with our Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.